G'day and welcome to another big edition of the Ballarat Football Netball League Footy Show. Thanks to our friends at McDonald's. My name's Yeendy. I'm joined by Tara Murray from the Star Weekly. We've got our preliminary final set up and we've got a first grand finalist set up after a cracking weekend of semi-final action.
It is, and it's sort of something we've seen the last few years. Probably not last year, but we saw it with Bacchus Marsh the previous year, Darley the year before that. The deciders come from not playing finals for a number of years, having not much success to win through to a grand final, and we see Melton through to their first grand final since 2005. On that occasion, they did beat Sunbury Lions on that day, and I think before late this season, that was the last time they'd actually beaten Sunbury Lions. So looking at it, it's massive for Melton. We've seen it's a side of homegrown talent. You look at their player points. I think I compared. They had one player that wasn't a 1 point player, and that's Ben Archard. Where they did play East Point on the weekend, and East Point nearly had all of their 43 points used. So it does say that it is a very homegrown side. You've got a lot of local talent, and what they've done in the last few years to build up that side has really worked.
Even been in the rooms after the game when they did defeat East Point, the number 25 was actually yelled out amongst some of the fans as well. They know that they've got 25 points with 21 1-point players and obviously Ben Archard, so that they are fully aware of just how great it is, and I think that probably unites the club a little bit more together. And realistically, when you talk about player points, this is probably what we want to be seeing more of anyway. And
you look, obviously, you mentioned Ben Archard. He is the one player that wasn't a one-pointer, but he's really brought into that club. He was named co-captain this year, so if you don't buy into the culture, you're not going to be named co-captain and given that honour. And it could spell dangerous things for other sides in the future, because if Melton wants to add players to this group, if they want to add a little bit more experience, add a little bit outside talent, they've got the points that they can do it, so they can get even stronger. I don't know whether they will. I think they're very big focused on this local one. You look at the talent, they did get Matt Denham back, but he was a junior at the club. So we all know what he did at Bacchus Marsh, but they've got juniors back to the clubs, even guys who are aligned with VFL clubs, they've got them back to the club, and that's been their big focus. And it's dangerous for other clubs in the future if Melton can continue that and maybe add one or two stars on top of what they've already got.
The game itself on Saturday was very close in the first half before the premiership quarter fell in the cards of Melton, and they were able to sort of kick away, and they ran with that burst of momentum. The defensive pressure inside the attacking 50 was relentless, and East Point's big guns just simply couldn't get their hands on the pill.
It is, and obviously speaking with Aaron Timms, he sort of said it wasn't until late in that last quarter they thought they had the job done. They kicked ahead in that third quarter, and they were able to maintain that throughout the last quarter. They were a little bit nervous. Obviously, East Point did come from behind against North Ballarat the previous week, and earlier in the season, East Point did come from behind to beat Melton, so they were a little bit nervous, but they were able to hold that momentum. And a lot of these are still kids. They do have those mature heads on them, and they're growing week by week, and they've got a lot of tackling pressure. They're not afraid at the contest, and they've shown they are not easy beats. And they're the informed team of the competition. They haven't lost, I think it's eight weeks.
They're gunning for 10 if they win the premiership.
So obviously they've got 9 in a row so they've got 9 wins in a row, so they could go in with 10. So be interesting how this week off sort of affects them, whether that will hold their momentum. But you've got a lot of praise for that. East Point would be a little bit disappointing. Their form has been a little bit up and down in the final series. They lost the final round of the season to Darley. They didn't look likely for 3 quarters against North Ballarat City, and now they've lost to Melton, and they've got Darley again this week. So East Point could quite easily go out in straight sets. Yeah,
exactly. But and probably we talk up how Melton have sort of got inexperienced come finals as well. East Point aren't exactly loaded with finals experience either, so that's something we'll certainly see when they do play in the prelim this weekend. And speaking of Darley, first semi-final action over at City Oval. To come from behind, they played one mind-blowing quarter to send North Ballarat City crashing out of the finals.
They actually played 2 good quarters. They were in front at quarter time.
That third quarter, that was absolutely outstanding.
They had a good first quarter. They had a good third quarter, and they were able to hold on in the end. So, and look, Heath Scotland was pretty pleased with the first and the third quarter. Second quarter, he was a little bit disappointed, and the focus at halftime was getting back to what they did in the first quarter. They did that. They got out to a decent lead, and in the end, they had to hold off. North Ballarat City. And look, Heath thought they still had the momentum. He said a couple of decisions probably went against them that sort of helped North Ballarat City. In the end, it came down to a shot not long to go. North Ballarat City had a shot about 40 metres out from goal, could have quite easily hit the front, and Heath admitted he thought their season was over at that point.
Well, it went out of bounds on the full.
Exactly, it went out of bounds on the full. It was the story of the day for North Ballarat City. They had 24 scoring shots to 16. You look, Darley get up and they've kicked 13-3. Their straight kicking really helped them. You've got North Ballarat City kicked 11-13. So if they kick straight, you could quite easily see them into a preliminary final. Instead, they've lost by 2 points. That one, as you mentioned, out of bounds on the full adds to that 24 scoring shots. So I think it was a pretty relieved Darley side after that shot missed.
I spoke to a few people at the game and said, what will happen in the last quarter? I thought, well, Darley had that momentum in the third quarter, but North Ballarat City were kicking with a breeze. So I'm going to renege on my statement before saying they played one good quarter. I know you highlighted two, but I think that final quarter was exceptional because North Ballarat City, they kept coming, but hats off to Darley's defence. They stood firm.
Exactly. And speaking with Heath, he said they had their standout players. You had the likes of Stephen Kennedy, you had Brian Graham were probably their standouts, but he said they had their players, whether they weren't playing well, they had moments. He goes, you may not be playing the best game, but you can have a moment that stands up and that helps impact this game. And he said every single player did that, so their defence stood strong, even when things weren't necessarily going their way, and they've got through to somewhere we've sort of been used to seeing Darley the last couple of years, and in a bonus for them, they got through with no injuries. So they've still got a couple of players that can come back in. Tate Stone didn't play, Lockie Herring was a late withdrawal, so they've still got a couple of guys, and it'll be interesting. Heath did sort of rule out Jake Edwards, but where he's sort of at, whether we might see him still in the finals as well.
We'll certainly we'll watch that one with greater interest. So thanks to our friends at McDonald's. Thanks to you, Tara, for jumping on board. We look forward to talking up this weekend's preliminary final later on in the week.
Thanks for having me.